Aloha Aina. Today is April the 3rd. It's 11:09 a.m. here on the beautiful island. And I love the 11 o'clock, and especially the 11 o'clock morning hour. That's the hour of alignment. So it's interesting to see when there's felt times feeling like I got the pull video today. And just gonna see about something really quick. And I don't have the feeling, or I have the feeling to channel the activation without any music today. So I've been doing energy work and mudras on myself this morning. A lot of energy in my body, so it's pretty difficult to share with you. And if you want to share the video, please do. It'd be awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the activation, or the energy clearing, the Kundalini amplification. There's a couple different things that I can call it, but it's using activates the organs in the body through the meridian lines to create these geometric vortexes of amplifying the energy of the body, the organs, which is the Kundalini energy. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It feels like what I was feeling, and that's what I'm going to first. Working on the solar plexus energy now. Working with the right tonsil. Sound vibrational frequency helps to detox the body, and it's very powerful. So I've got my right fingers. These are two very powerful. This is the element of air and space on my right tonsil. Same with this, and I'm sound tuning. The tonsils detox the body, help to detox the body. So it's really nice. Okay, now we're back. It looks like we're having a little bit of some connectivity issues with the Wi-Fi today. So maybe it's just the frequency we're transmitting. But anyway, we'll keep going. So I was just talking about the tonsils. And I can feel the vibration, so the energy, the chi energy from the fingers and the meridian lines to these organs and the elements working with this to vibrate, to detox, to pull down, to pull out from the tonsils and the lymph nodes here. So now we're at the heart chakra and the solar plexus. Throat chakra. We're tuning the chakras here. We're detoxing the body. We're amplifying the DNA. We're amplifying the organs to generate a higher frequency. I work with pulses on people, working with the meridian lines to really get the body like working how it's supposed to, doing a lot of epic sessions with people this week. So if anybody that wants to book a session with me, I have the links or the how to contact up in the post. On a medical standpoint, not just Kundalini energy, but it's like, you know, we can move energy out of the body, shift pain out, things like that. But I do activate third eyes too, and heart chakras and all that. You are the body of Christ. You are the body of Christ. My channel's been speaking to me a lot today. They're talking about today's energy and the upcoming planetary alignment. I've been speaking more light language today too. And so the messages that I've been getting this morning and the feelings I've been getting this morning has been all around love. It's been the love energy. I'm seeing it in posts. I'm feeling it in the ether. And my mind is, I'm, contemplating, pondering over things about love. And I think that humanity has become really jaded by accident. Maybe by accident. I don't know about that. But I think that when we talk about love, that people can automatically just like brush it off, or it's just, it's so programmed or whatever. And the fact is that it's a vibrational frequency that happens to transmit in our bodies when we're in the vibration of love. Like it's literally on a cellular level. So when you think about the body and you think about the vibrational frequency of our aura, of our thought processes, of our words, the food that we eat, and things like that, when we're in a place of love, that is a vibration that feels good. And the reason why it feels good is because the body likes it, right? Like the body is the antenna mechanism that is communicating to our human consciousness. It's just the relationship has been lost. So now we're like merging that relationship in with our body and our minds and our energy to get more dialed in, to have more peace and to have a better experience in the body and to move energy. And this healing work and the mudras and the rolfing and everything that I do it on myself as well as other people. And I've come to develop a much greater relationship with life because of that. Because I'm monitoring all of this energy in my body because I'm so sensitive as a channel now that I can literally experience what happens from love, from thinking about love, from love coming into the field to trigger the body to make the human think about love. Love songs, music, food, like all of the things that feel good are at a higher vibration because the body is letting us know that. So when there's fear and there's aggression and there's anger and there's disappointment and sadness, which a lot of that usually comes from expectation, it doesn't feel good in the body. The brain literally shifts the way it functions when someone is depressed in their life. Like on a vibrational level, it's a real thing. And so it's like when you think about Earth and you think about its inhabitants, or I should say okay? I think about its inhabitants, I think about the earth, I think about love, I think about the social interaction of how different species interact around love. Because on earth, it seems to be our innate nature. Everything is derived from love, therefore it is divine. And so if there's something distorted, which comes from fear, or lack of self-awareness, a lack of being taught, because really it's just about knowledge, that it's easy to, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so this morning I was pondering over love and discrimination, and I was pondering over ethnicity and humanity, and I was thinking about how different species of creatures on Earth interact with each other on a mating level. Horses mate, cows mate with cows, birds mate with birds, humans mate with humans. And it seems as though that we have this programming that has caused so much division in our life. Racism, we discriminate against people that look differently than our image, like all of these different things that cause separation. And I was just thinking about this today, like if we discriminate against another human based on their skin color alone, we can miss out on so much love because we're the same creature. We're the same species of creature. We have different skin color. There's lots of different shades and hair and eye color and all of these things, our voice, our tone, things like that. Yet we're still the same creature. We have the same organs. We pretty much function the same way. So if we discriminate against having a lover or a partner because of their skin color or where they live or where they grew up or their family or whatever, we really are missing out on the opportunity to have supremely divine union with another human. For me personally, I've been open my life. I've been with all kinds of brown people and white people and all kinds of things, and I come to understand that different regions, different colors based on ethnicity and tradition, we all have a different energy. So like if you're sticking with the same color, you might just really be getting that own flavor when you can step out and have different flavors, right? Like I love the spiciness of the Spanish people. So, and not just Spanish people, I love all people, wherever they're from. I love tradition. I love ethnicity. I love different religions because of that. I love different foods because of that. So if we love to eat Indian food or we love to eat Ethiopian food or whatever, how can we discriminate against the humans where that comes from? Like I think about all of this and I'm like, wow, it does. Like when we can go past the mental constructs of the way that we've been divided as a species, as a collective species, we have so many divisions. And it's okay that different groups of humans have their own ways of being. That doesn't mean that we have to discriminate against each other for being different. Like I have this like funny joke, or to me it's been funny, but I stay away from putting labels, but I've had this thing saying that like white boys are stale, kind of stale, and like not like a spicy. And I'm in white tan skin, you know, and I'm not saying that across the board, and I don't feel that way anymore. It's just I've had these like patterns of my own programming that I've had to work through so that I could open up my own expansion of my mind and connect to my heart so I can be in tune with my body, because love does not discriminate. Only the human programming does. We're constricting ourselves from being so much more vibrant around love because we discriminate against each other, period. I mean, there's some people I find more attractive than others, but that's not to say that it's because of one race. I think women, I'm attracted to women. I'm attracted to men. I think people are beautiful. I think humanity's beautiful. I think animals and nature and the water and the trees and everything's beautiful. So I don't discriminate against any of that. And that allows me to attract that same vibration of me loving everything else for what it is. Not trying to change anybody, not trying to tell anybody they're doing something wrong, or just because they're not right because they're not doing it the way that I see it. That was a lot of my programming. I see and feel love so strongly, and I couldn't understand why so many other people I was dating couldn't love me the way I wanted it. And it was because I wasn't loving myself the way I wanted it. So I changed the script and started learning to love myself. And it's been a year-long process. I got the first activation in 2005. I remember this light bulb moment went off. And I decided it was time for me to not be like my parents, to take the things from them that I wanted energetically, and to start taking responsibility for my own actions and my own feelings, right? Because that changes things, because then I can't blame anyone else. That's the divine mirror. So when it comes to love and relationships, it's like, so many of us are walking around bitter because of someone else's programming that infiltrated ours, and our programming infiltrated theirs, and now we're bitter around love. Like, just because of what someone else did, you know? So it's like that kind of like mental construct that we a lot of time don't even realize it's there can distort so many other things, and at the same time bring about some of the greatest healing ever. I mean, I've gone through, like, I feel super blessed to be in the experience that I'm having in my own life, because I get to like break those generational curses, and I get to become a conscious human being, and I get to share that consciousness with other people, to share that same frequency of love, right? So it's like, if I want to be high vibe, if I want to manifest at the highest of the high, well then what am I doing within myself? What am I putting out to others? How am I being an influence in life in general? Because we are in a collective web. And I channel now. I get all kinds of messages and I hear all kinds of things. And I've come to understand it a lot more, because I realize that so much of what I hear isn't me, even though somehow I've attracted it to my channel. So it is me. So it's like, it keeps me on my toes, or it has kept me on my toes. I'm pretty balanced now. Sometimes I slip. Okay, see, I'm backtracking. Judgment still comes up within me sometimes. So I adjust all of that, you know? So because it's like, when you're picking up on things that are penetrating the aura of your mind, you may not realize that you're receiving these voices because you're not attuned to that yet, but you are. They even told me, my channel even told me, like, you can hear the clairaudience, but we've been here feeding you information your whole life. It's just now I'm attuned somehow to be able to pick up on that channel. So it's like, even the sadness that we can feel out of nowhere, or this like surge of anger that can come in out of nowhere, is coming from somewhere. So all that matters is that we recognize what we're feeling in the body and what we can do to transmute that out. I'm so sensitive in my solar plexus, so sensitive. So it's like, I feel by my solar plexus if I'm like trying to make a decision and can't figure it out, and I don't have that yes, I know it's not time. Like, just learning to understand the rhythms of the body, because there's a chemical response to everything, and that's part of the unique divine design of this amazing mechanism that we're in, to be able to feel and transmit consciousness through words to each other. So it's like pretty phenomenal. And that's the other thing too about love is that a lot of the time, most of us are not taught to honor the temple that houses the soul, and that temple is the body. And so I know I spent a lot of my life trashing my body out, or what I felt like I was trashing my body out with alcohol and just all kinds of things that were not good for me. Yet at the same time, it got me to where I am now. So now I can make healthier choices around it and regenerate my body to a place to where my cells no longer even remember that alcohol use and that drug use and those thought processes that used to make me feel less than and things like that, because none of it is separate. They're just different items. It's that we as humans forget that just because we can pick something up, that makes it real. Everything is real. Everything is a non-linear reality. So it's like, what story are we creating for ourselves? I think about it as like a legacy. It's like, what legacy do I leave with myself? What do I leave when I leave a room? When I hit finish on the live video? You know, it's like that's leaving an imprint into someone's carbon print in their minds and their DNA. And so like when I go to the store, I just like to smile at people and say aloha and send love and things like that. It doesn't mean I do it every day, because some days I'm more introverted and I don't want to look anyone in the eye. So it's just a matter of gauging energy and realizing and remembering that it all comes from love. And humanity is a collective species, we as humans, so skin color should not segregate us in any way, right? Is it segregate? You know what I mean. I feel like when we can come together as a species of human, we can really do some amazing things together, and it just starts with wanting to be open. All we have to do is be open and like stop putting up this angry front to be pissed off because we don't even know why. You know, it's like I see it and it's passed down generationally. And, you know, we don't have to program each other to hate each other just because of someone else's experience. We can actually come together as brothers and sisters, which we really are, and to co-create. We're not meant to be alone all the time. We are a community species. And I've been a lone wolf a lot in my life, so I understand like coming out of that and like coming to Hawaii specifically for me, because there's so many conscious communities where people buy land and they have 30, 40 people living on it and things like that. Like Hawaii has a lot of that, and it triggered me and pushed my buttons and all of these things to get out of that shell of that lone wolf mentality that I didn't realize I had the armor on. And so I'm still getting used to it. I've had a lot more guy friends than female friends in my life, so I'm opening up more to the feminine energy also. So it's like there's this balance that comes in with how things feel in our personal space. Are you mad all the time? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? You know, or do you feel happy mostly? Do you feel non-emotional a lot of the time? Like, what is your gauge? And it's okay to feel non-emotional sometimes. I love it. I don't need to feel happy or sad all the time, or at all. I like the just like where you're like totally in observer mode, the witness. And so, you know, it's like humans, we have this idea that we have to have all or nothing when we want it all right now. And it's just life isn't like that. It's a progression. And sure, we can say in the spiritual community, we have it all right now. We have access to it all. But in our physical reality and the mental reality, it's a process, because things come to us and things move away from us in divine timing. It's all orchestrated. It all boils down to energy, electrons. Like that's the thing about humans that I didn't realize. I learned a lot of this reading Dr. Joe Dispenza, learning about electrons in the body. Oh, and I have a good book. This book, Sam on the Big Eye let me use this one. I still have it, girl. Sex and Quantum Physics. This talks about the body the mental energy, the sexual energy, and how we come into each other's fields and how we leave. Like, it's a real thing. And so it's based on electrons. When you have two people that are at a high vibrational frequency in their thoughts, their words, their actions, their body, that's going to attract, like those electrons are going to come together and balance out. If you have someone who's high vibe and you have someone who has a lot of depression, maybe they have some illness in their body or they have something going on and they complain about everything and they're never happy, being around that person is going to leave the high vibe person feeling draining after a while, because literally on an electron ionic level, in gravity pushes our electrons to balance themselves out. So that person is literally sucking energy from the electrons so that they can balance out together. And when two people don't balance out together, it causes friction. And that's when relationships get distorted, friendships get ruined, work relationships end poorly, when really it's like, whoa, it's not even personal. It's on an electron level. So it's like, what are you doing with your electrons? What are your ions doing? What is your DNA doing? Like, it's like a for real thing, At least it feels like it is in my mind. In my reality, it does. And so I'm able to create a happier experience. That doesn't mean I don't go through it. I'm a Cancer. I'm super sensitive in my solar plexus. I ride a strong wave. Some days I'm moody, which means I'm just quiet. So I don't penetrate that moodiness onto someone else. And I communicate that with those that are around me so that they know I'm just having a quiet day. Because usually I'm like, la, 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 la. So, it's like a matter of flowing with what feels good and eliminating things that create a feeling that doesn't feel good. And that's why discrimination in love doesn't feel good. And humanity has been distorted for so long because of that division in humanity. We're discriminating against each other when all we want to do is love each other. We all want love and to be appreciated and seen and all of those things that we want as children, because that's the inner child. The inner child does not leave our consciousness. And so the inner child a lot of time gets distorted because the inner child is where the programming comes from when we're children. And a lot of time we don't realize it. I don't remember a lot of my childhood from up until I'm like 9 or 10. I have a couple of handfuls of memories. So I recognize that since I don't remember those things or can't, or it doesn't come up or whatever, that my programming runs a lot deeper than I thought or think. And so that's why I instead of finding out why, I just pay attention to my rhythm and how I'm treating myself and other people. Because compassion's really easy, man. It is. Being empathetic is really easy. It's just a matter of what that ego's got festering in there that causes us distortion within the species of humanity. That's why love is better. It feels good, It's like when you have that yummy meal and it's so good and you just feel so full. That is love. That's what love is supposed to feel like. Not fighting, not fussing, not yelling, not being angry, not, because it's like, where does that come from? It comes from an unsteadiness within oneself for whatever reason. It doesn't matter what the reason is, but it's like looking at the action. I go through stages where I still feel rage. It'll just come up in me at something, or, it's like, I honestly feel like as humans trying to reach this pedestal of just being like in total bliss all the time is just like really far-fetched. Now, do I believe that I could get to a place where I'm not triggered and I can really hold space? I like to think yes. That is like the mastery in which I achieve to get to. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to suffer in the meantime and cause this distortion in my own psyche or expect anyone else to do it. Because that's where a lot of the expectation comes from. Because a lot of our frustration comes from the outside world. It does. Because when you have the vision to see compassion and empathy and you live in the light of love and you're around a bunch of people that aren't aware of themselves, it can be a little tough. So that's why remembering love, holding space and having compassion and distancing from people and integrating with people and all of that is a fine dance. So it's okay to get angry sometimes. It's like, it's okay to feel emotion. It's just like what we do with that emotion once it's felt. Like, I mean, I really feel like, does Gandhi really not have a time when he's pissed off just because, like, now he's a guru or whatever, or these gurus or whatever? No, man. I really have a hard time believing that people are just in samadhi, like, peacefully their whole lives, because we're in a collective web and we're influenced by the outside as well as the inside. So it's like remembering compassion. Sometimes we just need to be reminded. And so that's why our influence and love is so amazing, because we are influencing and programming one another all the time. The TV is influencing you all the time. That's why it's like turning that thing off, like, it's just, you know, it can be tough. So it's just like picking what kind of programming we're allowing ourselves to penetrate, and then how we're sharing that same programming with other people is penetrating in their consciousness. 2 nights ago, I went through my Facebook and I deleted a lot of my posts from the last week or so because I was going through it. Like, I was feeling really pissed off at humanity. And sometimes I put my foot down and I can get a little stern with my tone to, like, hey, you know, yet I like to be more at peace and love and share. So I go back and delete some of the things I say, because it's just like, those are in the moment. Although I still feel it, I don't want that to be like constantly penetrating like thousands of people when they're looking at posts and things like that. So it's like, I'm mindful of the compassion that I share. And that's all it takes, because when we're compassionate with ourselves and we don't have this ego to compete with one another, we can get out of the way and actually like get in alignment, because source is there to tap into constantly. It doesn't leave us. And I've learned about channeling that, you know, I just let my hands go and they just start moving on their own. I'm consistently dialed in now. Like, there's an awareness that takes place to get dialed into source energy like that, and that is love. Like, literally it is, because when I'm angry and pissed off, it causes distortion in my head and I can't hear. I feel like I can't even feel properly. My breathing gets distorted. You know, that fight or flight tendency that comes in where it's like, you just get frozen and it just like stabs you right in the solar plexus. Like, I go through that too. So it's like being gentle to ourselves, to let ourselves just chill the fuck out and just like be cool, you know, and like let other people be themselves and, you know, share love, but don't try to tell anybody what to do. I mean, it's like we rebel as children. We come in as humans, which is interesting that we're in such a controlled we're on such a controlled planet, that we come in with this innate nature to want to be free and rebel. We show displays of behavior and rebelling before we can even speak words as children. So, you know, it's like how much of it is programming from our parents or whoever's raising us to it actually just being embedded in our DNA. Like, it's a for real thing. It's like this really weird thing about being human is that we're having to be told what to do, yet all we want to do is be free, but we don't know what freedom is. I like to think freedom comes with love and being mindful in the moment, because we live on earth and we have to go by specific rules or there's consequences. And it's the same thing with our own energy. The energy we give to each other has a backlash. It's going to come back. It's like throwing a boomerang. It's going to come back, you know? And so isn't that a boomerang? It's not a frisbee. Anyway, it's like that thing. Like, it does come around in cycles. The biggest thing is learning to let go of not trying to control anyone. Yeah, Anna says, letting people be where they are takes a pure ascended soul. I have let people be where they are since 94. So you're a pure ascended soul since 94. I feel you, sister, because it's something that I've had to work on in my own programming, because even though like I wanted people to just do their own thing, I wanted them to love me and do that thing and like not be blind to their own behavior. And when you call somebody out on their behavior and they're not open to receive it because they're not aware of themselves, most of the time it comes back in aggression. Some people like to call it narcissism or whatever, but the words and the labels don't mean anything, because it's just a matter of talking about recognizing behavior patterns. And so that's why it can be a slippery slope when engaging with people, because you can say, hey, I'm feeling this behavior, or however it's communicated. It's like, be mindful of how you step into that arena with that person that you're about to call them out on their behavior. You got to be ready for that. And if you really want to make a big change, you can't get angry back at them. You got to hold space, because when that mirror is not yelling back and it's just holding space with peace, that person doesn't get their same reflection back. So the mirror changes, and that reprograms the subconscious psyche. It's so beautiful. And since I've stopped, since I am learning to not be triggered by the reactions of other people to distort my action back at them, I've been able to see it happen. When I hold my ground, when I stay in love, and I don't get angry, and I'm not using words as weapons and past experiences as weapons to trigger that person with a knife even more, I see that they shift so much quicker than if I was to respond in anger. Now, if I respond in love and just like hold compassion and let them know that I'm here to listen and not fight, like we're on the same team. Let's talk about this, I notice that they will come down quick. And then we can get somewhere, because when that fight or flight chemical reaction is happening in the body, it is really hard to hold space with each other, to be able to listen to the words that are being spoken from one another. But boy, we remember those words that come out as weapons, calling each other's names and using, the personal information we've shared with someone as daggers. That is dirty, by the way. That's one thing that has triggered me so much in my life. Some of the relationships I've been in, and family members and things like that, when you share personal things with them and then they use that against you whenever they're pissed off because you've called them out on their behavior or whatever the situation is, that's not right either. And that's why that kind of behavior feels so bad in the body, because that hurts. It's a deep pain. Now, the mastery is when that happens, is to recognize that that person really is in a lot of pain themselves, and they don't recognize themselves either, or they wouldn't use that to hurt you. They're hurting too. And so it's like, that's where that like interesting spectrum of empathy and compassion comes in, because we see it so strongly. I've been physically abusive to people before because I was not in a place to hold space with myself, and I would like talk to someone about their behavior, and they would use those sort of techniques against me, and I would get so angry that I would physically fight. And that is not okay. So I decided, I had the premonition one day that I didn't want to feel those things in my body anymore. So what could I do not to feel that? Because as I started slowing down in my consciousness, I was able to get more space in between myself and those actions. And so as I started distancing myself from the reaction and started getting more dialed into my body based on how my psyche's triggered, I come to realize that, like, whoa, I don't want my body to feel like that. I don't like that chemical response where it's just like adrenaline and fight or flight. And it's like, total, like, that's where people lose themselves and do really bad things to themselves and other people, like being physically violent, murder, rape, like things in our human consciousness that we perceive as not being okay. And so it's like, when people are doing these things and they're harming themselves and other people, it's not like they're not in their right mind, There's something going on in their body that's so deep, that's triggering their consciousness that they can't hold space in love. So it's like recognizing that every single human on the planet has the same experience. And it's all based differently on programming, yet it's all the same. Because the reactions come out. You're either smiling and happy or you're angry and you got a shit face, right? We all experience it. You can look at an infant that can't speak words or tell you anything, and you can smile at it and the baby will start laughing. Say a baby's crying and you go up and you start smiling at it, the baby's going to start smiling. But if you go up and you're looking at a baby with this like gnarly face, you can see the consciousness go from smiling to crying. You can see it take place. That is causing programming in the mind and in the body. So it starts from when we're really young, you know? And so when we can get outside of the storylines of why we are feeling whatever it is that we're feeling and just recognize that we feel based on the programming, based on our awareness, and based on the body, those three elements. It's like, whoa, okay, let me get real with myself. Let me like stop competing with people. Let me let my ego go out to dry. Go play somewhere else. Like, I love you, I forgive you, bye. That's when you can start like rewriting the script of how you want to engage with people. Because we all want love. So if we're angry at people, how are we going to attract the love that we really want? Because we come out of the womb seeking that from the parent. We want that as children. The baby cry, you pick it up, it stops crying. It wants that physical connection. It wants that energetic connection. That's why we as humans are supposed to come together as a community in love. So it's like when we can step outside of all that programming or whatever it is, and just to like have this like amazing awakening of self-realization and the realization of others, that's compassion. That's where empathy steps in. Because really, like, all the distortion that comes in from us is a lack of unknowing. It doesn't matter, well, my mama did this and my dad did this, or my dad wasn't around, or, you know, I gave my kid away for adoption, or whatever the situation is. It's like, whoa, like, okay. Yes, we've had these life experiences. We've had these situations that influence us up to this moment. And we can release the shame and guilt around all of that because we didn't know. We didn't know that we have this programming. We didn't know that we had these bodies that trigger that programming. We didn't know that everyone else is suffering on the planet and their emotions too, you know. We do suffer when we're not free. And when we're not in love with ourselves, that's suffering, and it causes distortion. It's a real thing. It seems to be in this human experience anyway, because it feels better in the body. It feels better to share that with other people. People like happy people, even though a lot of people aren't happy. So it's like, where is the insanity coming from? It's just a lack of awareness. That's it. It's like because information is power, right? We get knowledge. It's like, boom, an activation happens, that aha moment. And it's like, oh yeah, shit. I didn't even realize, you know? So now we can realize. Self-realization is emotional intelligence. Because when you start to self-realize, you can't turn the switch off. I feel like it's pretty hard to do. When you're truly in the path, because you want to feel better, because you realize it comes from love, because all the pain and suffering and all of that is just, it's difficult, yet it's here on earth. What we perceive as pain and suffering is present. So it's like it can feel overwhelming. Just like with all of this stuff that's happening out there all over the place. There's so much news. There's so much craziness. It's just like swirling around all over the place. We're being so programmed right now. So it's like, whoa, get out in nature. Turn the TV off. Take a break from the phone. Play some music. Get some other programming going. Because we live on a planet where pain and suffering exist. So it's like making the best reality that we can out of that and helping each other is the way to do it. Stop the separation. Come together as community. Stop discriminating on each other because of the skin color that we have. Like, you know, we're powerful. This body is so powerful. And so, you know, you keep the masses separated, you separate the power. So when we can come together, it's like, poof, all this collective energy can really do some great things. At least that's the way I like to perceive it. That's the way I'm feeling it. That's what feels good to me energetically in my body. I don't get these triggers of something false. So I'm like, okay, I'll stay on that path because that's what feels better as a human. Acts of kindness go a long way, and it all starts with ourselves and sharing it from the outside at the same time. As above, so below. It's like, yeah, you need to love yourself too, but also loving people can teach you how to love yourself too. So it's like the reflection. It feels good to share love. They're asking me upstairs if I want something from the grocery store, so I just need to reply really quick. You know, we're being mindful up here and going out as little as we need to get what we need, and, you know, and taking this time to enjoy the fact that, you know, we don't have to go to work, and not to worry about there being a lack of anything, and all is provided, and using this time to really like get dialed in with ourselves. We're clearing the land. We're going to grow a garden. Like this is like Mama Gaia nurture time for humanity. And even though it looks chaotic, there's always a blessing in everything. And so it's like changing that vibration, rewriting the script, you know, like let's create something to make this feel good, because that's the way it is for humanity. These ups and downs and all of that stuff. And so Marcus says, don't give the psychic vampires the food they are after. Starve them, and eventually they will feed off of the more nutritious love. You know, and the thing that triggers me to think about that statement that I sometimes have suffered with and still do sometimes, and when we're so empathetic, which means we're dialed into being compassionate about each other, it's difficult at times because we see the goodness in everyone. And even though their behaviors may be on display of something that doesn't feel good in the body, it's like, how much space do we hold for that? You know, I mean, I feel like when humans engage with each other and they live together, or they work together, or they're around each other a lot, that it's about learning each other's rhythms and seeing each other and communicating with one another. And if someone isn't within themselves to self-realize, or maybe they're not really dialed into communication, then that gives you the information to let you know their flow. And so then it's like you can then shape-shift yourself to be able to flow around this person for a while, if the behavior doesn't change. Because the more you're around someone and there isn't this like balance created, there's going to be distortion that's going to happen, and the electrons are going to push each other apart. So that means these two people or those people will not be around each other anymore. Because holding space for someone over and 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 over again, that isn't leveling up in their consciousness, if they're angry all the time, if they're constantly complaining about people and themselves and everything around them, people that are light and happy or want to be light and happy can only hold space for that for so long before anger starts to set in, animosity. Animosity to me is one of the hardest things to get rid of, because that's like deeper programming, because it's something that's happened on a continual basis versus somebody just acting the fool and then you get angry one time. Like because there's repetitive programming that's taken place because that person is trying to hold space over and over and over and over again for someone who's really being distorted in their consciousness or in their actions, I should say. So it's like, how long to stick around, how to continue to show love to people that are just like aren't in the space to being open to receive, you know, because love is transmitted in two ways, because we're givers and receivers. We give love and we receive love. And the thing that I noticed about myself as I was giving, but I wasn't as open to receive love as I thought, because I wasn't genuinely feeding myself. And so, you know, there's like a balance of all of that and what that feels like. And so it's like, how long can a person hold space for someone who is not well within themselves? I find that continuing to show love, and something that like in my life, I've been very quick to cut people off. Boom, done. Like no second chances. I don't even want you in my energy. Let me just keep on my path. And so I have been learning over the last few years to be able to hold more space and not get so triggered and not take it so personally. And it's helped me develop my relationships better, because with myself, most importantly, because I'm recognizing that all these expectations is what causes a lot of distortion. I create the space that people tell me they feel very comfortable in, so that they can unarmor, they feel comfortable around me. They can unarmor themselves and just feel what it feels like to feel love. Because when we're comfortable with ourselves, that's what love feels like. And when we hold that space for other people, they can level up in their electrons and feel a little bit better in themselves. So they get a little medicine, you know, like literally on a physical level. So if someone is distorted all the time, and we come in with our light, the electrons aren't going to allow it, like literally on a vibrational level. Cinnamon, And so it's like, you know, it's a fine line around all of that. And that's why I feel like it's the most important thing to do what feels good to the self, because we can run ourselves down in the ground constantly caring for someone when we're not getting fed in return. And yes, we can feed ourselves and love ourselves, but when we're engaging with other people, it's a natural response to want to give and receive, and on a balanced manner, Yet having the expectation there is what ruins relationships, and people just like get really distorted. So that's why it's like learning to understand each other without there being this expectation is how to do it, because then we can start to learn each other's rhythms and just see like, okay, maybe this person isn't in the place at this time that feels good for me. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be this big personal thing. Yet it's like being able to be open to communicate these things is what I dream of, to be able to like attract more and more people that I can have these conversations with, and they understand it. So we just get each other and let each other be and just do our own thing, and then come together and share meals and love each other, you know, like in community. That's really what a community is, I feel, is to being able to go past the expectation of the ego, of like needing things to be a certain way. It's like you have your own space, keep it how you want it, but then in a collective space, like, you know, that's where we can come together. So there's a balance of being responsible for our own space and how we make that feel. And then when we emerge with other people, to be open to shape shift with all of the other characters in the room. You know, like that's the easement of being able to flow and integrate with energy with people on a collective level, is when you're outside of the construct of your own mind and in all the boxes that everybody tried to put you in. It's like, no thank you. Let me just be cool over here and flow. And that's what feels the best, you know. And it's like, I feel like being in a more flowy energy allows these other things that come in. It's like, okay, I see you, you can leave now. Or like, here comes this trigger. Okay, you can leave now. Because it's like we're on this path, this like perpetual, like this infinite moving like spiral of energy, and we're attracting and detracting these things as they come into our vortex. And learning not to take it all so personally is the key, because that abandonment thing, or whatever that programming is that comes in through childhood or that we take into the adulthood of being possessive around humans, it's like, wow, we get in a relationship and think it's going to be forever, and then we try to like mold and control each other and tell each other what to do, and then expect each other to submit and commit. Yet we push each other apart, and it becomes so distorted, and then we're not kissing, and we're not having sex, and we're not being quiet together and being happy. Like, there's so much distortion in all of that because of this expectation, or just, it's a lack of awareness. To me, it's just simply a lack of awareness, because when we have the awareness, it's like, oh yeah, I see, I feel that. Let me integrate that in. Hopefully, everyone has their own path of when they're going to be activated into the leveling up in their consciousness. You can tell somebody the same thing 1,000 times, and that doesn't mean they're going to display that behavior. But a month later, they may be like, boom, right into alignment. Everyone has their own rhythm in this web. So it's like, how can we expect each other to submit and do what we feel on an individual level? And it kind of seems like we all want the same things. We're just going about it differently. We all want respect. We all want love. We all want to be heard and accepted. We all want to be loved. We want to feel that energy back. Yet there's like a lot of different rhythms to try to get to this one point. A lot of distortion. And, you know, it's understandable. So that's where compassion comes in. Because when you understand these things, it helps to understand humanity as a whole, because it's like, damn, there's like that many of us that are like having these same things. So that's why I feel like instead of sharing all this like fear mongrel stuff with all this stuff going on online, that's why I went and deleted my post. I'd rather share like yummy things so that we can like take a break from all of that to redirect all of this to re-engage with all of that. Because the world is a tool of reflection, and it's a mirror for all of us to take a look at, because how we respond to it is our reflection of it. And so it's like, when I see all these posts and all this stuff and it starts to trigger me and then I start to feel fear, I'm like, oh, hell no. So that's why I've been like, I went and deleted all of that stuff, because I've only felt fear one time during this whole epidemic thing. And it was because I went down the rabbit hole. You know, it's fun to do sometimes. It shifts the consciousness, that's for sure. But when I start to feel fear, I'm like, no, 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 no. I have to switch my own vibration and put out what it is I want to receive and return. And it works. Even if it's temporary, like riding that solar plexus wave that we're in. So knowing that it comes and goes and being okay with it is the number one thing, because then it's like, oh, I don't have to have this expectation that I'm supposed to be happy all the time. Or, oh, I don't have this expectation that I'm going to be sad all the time, because we can really get stuck in that and think we're never going to make it out alive. And it's like, whoa, that's just a pit of, you know, it's just a little dip in the frequency, come back up, like, you know. And when we can hold each other's hands or just hold space without trying to tell each other what to do, just we can purge these things out. Because what I find with myself is when I counsel people, or I'm talking about these things, or someone wants to share with me, all I have to do is like hold space, and they get in my channel, we get in each other's channel, and they purge whatever it is they needed to say. And then it's like, okay, ding, you know, because we just like hold space for each other to be comfortable, to allow ourselves to take off the armor. And so that competitive ego-ness is what puts the armor on. That's the fight. We don't have to battle, you know. It's like, but it is nice to know that the armor's there, because I can put it back on in a minute if I need to. That's our survival instinct of being human, right? Like being mindful of being loved, but like not taking anything, you know, that doesn't feel good at the same time. So surrendering is a big thing, and I've worked on a lot of surrenderance in my own ego, and it hasn't been pretty. And, you know, it still doesn't always feel good, but it's like, fuck, okay, fine. Let it go. It's not a big deal. And it goes deep, you know. Sometimes it's easy to do that super fast, and then sometimes, you know, it takes days. And that's okay. It's just we don't have to shame each other for the way that we feel. You feel how you want to feel. I'll feel how I feel, and that's cool. And I think that, like, that is where a lot of that freedom that we like to think about, like, that's where that comes from, or that's where it should come from. The word should. That's where I feel like it comes from, is to give each other our own independent sovereignty. Like, I feel like when we're not trying to tell each other what to do, then we can see our own selves through each other, because then there's not an agenda. There isn't an ego that's like trying to penetrate into the field of someone else. And, you know, it happens as children. Parents discipline, they teach us, we teach our children, you know, la la la. So it's like this cycle of learning that we've had. And to know that we don't have to stay stuck in anything. Like the word hypocrite, like, who the fuck are you to call somebody a hypocrite? Like, that's what I think about in my own self, because it's like, I change how I feel about things all the time. You know, like, as far as like eating meat, not eating meat, doing this, doing that, like, I can change however I want, whenever I want. And if someone calls me a hypocrite, it's like, that's your programming, boo. It ain't me, you know? So it's like moving past all of these like constructs of telling each other what to do, because why do we do that? Like, it's one thing to hold space, but then it's another thing to like penetrate into someone's aura. And giving advice is nice, but it's like, what kind of advice do we give each other? I don't know, man. That's why I just surrendered right now. And then in my mind, it was like, it all just comes back to love. It does. So practicing love is important. Like, it's our innate nature, but that doesn't mean we know what to do with it. It's fun to practice. And that's what's so great. And being okay with getting it wrong sometimes, because it's not wrong, because we don't know what to do with it a lot of the time. Because we don't know what someone else's psyche's got going on in there. How's everybody been feeling with the energy lately? Like, it's been pretty interesting. Love is the answer. Okay, guys, aloha. I love you so much. Thank you for everything that you're doing out there, spreading the love and holding space and learning what a reflection is. Aloha.